Dr. Mustafa, Dr. Shaheen, past presidents, directors, members, and guests of the Empire Club of Canada. My name is Charlie Coffey, and in addition to my day job at Royal Bank, I am the third vice president of the Empire Club of Canada. And again, I welcome all of you to this luncheon today, and I'm here in the absence of our president, Bill Whitaker. The Empire Club of Canada is a not-for-profit organization founded in 1903. We're very proud of the fact that we are North America's oldest national speakers forum of record. Of course, new members are always welcome, and you can learn more about us, the organization, and can access at the same time some 3,000 previous, and I would say inspiring, speeches. You can access all of that at www.empireclub.org. I would like now to introduce you to our distinguished head table. They will rise briefly, and I would ask you, the audience, to hold your applause until all have been introduced. From the audience, far right, Bart Mazzenti, partner, Mazzenti and Roberts Corporation, and the immediate past president of the Empire Club of Canada. Joshua Furlong, senior student, Monarch Park Collegiate Institute. I want to tell you that Josh has a special interest in business courses and is presently also placed in cooperative education at Cosette Communications. Josh has been very involved in helping to raise funds to build schools and to provide fresh drinking water for the people of Masai Mara in Kenya. He has been doing this with his business classmates and the Free the Children organization. And I'll tell you that Josh plans to study business at university next year. Dr. Farood Shaheen, President, Islamic Society of Niagara Peninsula, and the founder of IDRF. Asba Hatniani, grade 11 student, Islamic Foundation School. Asba has an excellent academic record, receiving the Principals Award for 3 years, and also winning the Dr. Bayoun Leadership for Success Scholarship. She founded Radio IFS at her school, won public speaking awards, and has taken part in numerous interfaith dialogues. Besides school fundraising for disaster relief, she has also been a regular volunteer with 2 community organizations, NMJ Canada and Al Anzar Foundation for the Homeless. In recognition of her outstanding success, Asba has been elected as one of the top 25 future leaders of tomorrow by Bentley College in Boston. Asba, well done. There is another equally accomplished student in the audience who is also a winner of the Bentley Leadership Award. His name is Mohsen Jalani. Mohsen, would you please stand and be acknowledged by our audience today? Well done. The future indeed is in good hands. Harold Braithwaite, Executive Director of the Retired Teachers of Ontario and the Chair of the Nelson Mandela's Children Fund. From the riding of Newmarket, my apologies.
I don't look like Belinda.
He said he didn't look like Belinda, he's right. The Honourable John McCallum, Member of Parliament, Markham, Unionville. And a former colleague at RBC. From the audience's far left, Kamel Hassan, Director, the South Asia Group Limited, and also a Director of the Empire Club of Canada. Yazim Ratanzi, the Member of Parliament for the riding of Don Valley East, and her wonderful suit would suggest to you what party she may be with. Mohammed Al-Zaibek, Chair and Chief Executive Officer of Helpcaster Technologies, Inc., and the sponsor of today's event. And Mohammed, our sincere thanks for your generosity. And finally, Dr. Rafi Mustafa, the President of the International Development and Relief Foundation, who I will have more to say about in a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, your head table. Prior to introducing Dr. Mustafa, let me share with you a few words about an organization that I just learned a little bit about 6 months to a year ago, and it's the IDRF. It is a gem, I would tell you, in this country and around the world. IDRF is a registered Canadian humanitarian organization that implements relief, aid, and development projects overseas to help vulnerable people improve their living conditions and enhance self-sufficiency. IDRF projects are carried out in accordance with Islamic principles of human dignity, self-reliance, and social justice. Let me repeat that. They are in accordance with the Islamic principles of human dignity, self-reliance, and social justice. To me, they sound like Canadian principles, like our principles. In parts of the world that are affected by natural disasters or wars or conflicts, IDRF provides survivors with immediate needed relief aid such as food, water, and clothes, shelter, cooking facilities, and medical aid. In countries where there are areas of protracted poverty, IDRF assists communities with development aid such as primary education, basic health care, access to clean water, microcredit, and training for small business. Since its inception in 1985, IDRF has sponsored hundreds of development and relief programs in 21 countries in Asia, Africa, the Middle East, and Eastern Europe. The work of IDRF is supported by the Canadian International Development Agency and by Canadian men and women from all walks of life. Our guest speaker, Dr. Rafi Mustafa, received his PhD in chemistry from the University of British Columbia in 1969. He specialized in computer simulation of molecular structure. He spent 4 years at the University of Toronto and the University of Windsor as a National Research Council postdoctoral fellow. During the years that followed, he was engaged in research and teaching at the University of Leicester in England and the University of Sindhu in Pakistan and the University of Khartoum in Sudan. He left the academic world and started his own IT company in 1991. At present, he is the CEO of Indus Systems and serves on the boards of several not-for-profit organizations, and today he is the president of IDRF. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Rafi Mustafa.
Distinguished guests at the head table, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honor for me to be here this afternoon, and I'm thankful to the Empire Club of Canada for this opportunity. I would also like to thank Helpcaster for sponsoring this event. Let me tell you a little bit about IDRF. Probably a few things more than what Charles Coffey just mentioned. As he said, the International Development and Relief Foundation, or IDRF, was set up in 1985 by the Council of Muslim Communities of Canada. And its mandate is to help the destitute of the world, regardless of race, religion, or color. Even though IDRF still relies mainly on the generosity of Canadian Muslims, but the list of supporters of IDRF includes donors such as the Mennonite community, various church groups, corporate donors, the federal and the provincial government, and many, many individuals, organizations, and foundations. Over the past 20 years, IDRF has gone from country to country in Europe, Africa, and Asia, setting up schools, creating jobs, digging wells, and providing food, medicine, and basic health care to the needy. So this is a brief introduction about IDRF. Let's now come to our topic and examine how we can build bridges and business through international development. This afternoon, I would like you to meet a man from the other side of the globe whose life has been touched by the people of Canada. He's a 37-year-old fisherman who lives with his wife and a 12-year-old son named Murshid in a coastal town of Bangladesh. There was a time when he spent his entire day on the boat, but he was never able to catch enough fish to provide adequate living for his family. Until one day, he got a loan from IDRF to buy a fishing net, which he did. His daily catch went up. He had more money available to look after his family, and soon he was able to pay off the loan. He even started sending his son to the school and gave him 5 takas every day for pocket money. Now, those 5 takas were enough for little Murshid to buy a packet of roasted chickpeas, a popsicle, and a pack of chewing gum. And he still had some change left over. Or, with 5 takas, he could buy a can of Coke, which he had never tasted before in his life. But he didn't want to spend all his money on a can of Coke. So he resisted the temptation for a few days until he could fight it no more. So one day, during the school recess, he ran to the nearby store and threw his 5 taka coin on the counter. Moments later, for the first time in his life, he was holding in his hand an ice-cold can of Coke. He opened it as fast as he could and put his lips on the oozing liquid. He took the first sip, and it tasted strange. Then he took another sip, and another one, until he had a big belch. He put his hand on his tummy and laughed. He thought that it was a drink from heaven. Little Murshid had suddenly become a consumer. He had acquired purchasing power, and he had used that power to buy a can of Coke. Now, I can't tell you precisely how that 5 taka coin was distributed, but obviously part of it went to the local retailer. Some went to the government of Bangladesh in Texas. Some went to the employees of Coca-Cola. Some went to the suppliers of raw material. Some came into your pocket if you were a stockholder of Coca-Cola. And some went to the government of Canada when you cash your capital gains. A little intervention from IDRF had put money into so many pockets. And in that process, it had created a market and had empowered the consumer. The government, the corporate sector, and the individual donor form the 3 corners of an equilateral triangle. And the NGO sits right in the center of the triangle. The NGO gathers its resources from the 3 corners and distributes the dividends to them. The government gets paid in taxes. The corporate sector gets paid in market growth for its products and services. And the individual donor gets paid in tax benefits and spiritual gratification. International development is good business, and that's why countries invest in it. In 1970, 22 of the world's richest countries, including Canada, pledged to spend 0.7% of their gross national income, or GNI, on official development assistance, or ODA. 36 years later, 5 of those countries have even surpassed their 0.7% target, but Canada is not one of them. Countries like Norway and Sweden are now approaching 1% mark. Unfortunately, Canada still sits close to the bottom of the list. Last year, we spent only 0.27% of our GNI on development. Incidentally, the United States sits at the very bottom of the list, just above Italy, and it spends only 0.17% of its gross national income on development. Now, can you imagine what the world would be if the US were spending 0.7% of its GNI on development? Today, the whole world would be drinking Coke instead of water. God forbid. If we want to be relevant on the global village, we have to learn how to do business. Now, apart from creating markets and empowering consumers, international development generates a tremendous goodwill for the donating country. Let me give you the example of Afghanistan. Not many of us are aware that parts of Afghanistan have gone through 7 years of drought and famine. The farmers stopped cultivating their land as they went through the rainless years. Their livestock was wiped out due to disease and starvation. Their communities were disintegrated. Their villages were abandoned as people became nomads and started wandering in search of food and water. Finally, the rains started coming, but by that time it was already too late. The farmer had no seed to sow and no ox to pull the plow. At that time, IDRF undertook an initiative with SIDA funding to revive agriculture in that area. 2 years ago, I had the opportunity of spending some time with a farming community in the province of Balkh and Faryab in Afghanistan. I noticed that when our interpreter introduced me to the people, he mentioned the name of Canada. And they came forward to embrace me with a smile. Later on, I asked the interpreter why they were so excited when they heard the name of Canada. And he said that a year ago, the farmers had received the seeds provided by IDRF, and they had a bumper crop of wheat. The price of wheat came down tumbling, and bread was selling at less than half the pre-harvest price throughout the province. When people were told that the seed was provided by Canada, they found out that there is at least one country in the world beyond their borders, and it's called Canada. This is what a global village is all about. Humanity has common destiny, and we have no choice but to join the world for our own survival, because our survival depends upon the survival of others. We have to make sure that our markets are not demolished and our trading partners are not destroyed by waging wars and promoting conflict. Canada has always been known for building bridges, and we must stay on that path if we want our future generations to survive. If there is fire in one corner of the global village, we must dispatch fire engines from our corner. Otherwise, a fire will sweep through the entire village. I would like you to meet another man from the other side of the globe who taught me what a global village really is. I met him recently in an earthquake relief camp in Pakistan. As I talked to the people around me, I noticed that he stood silently behind the crowd. I wanted to talk to him, but he did not come forward. Finally, when I was leaving, he came forward and shook my hand. He asked me where I had come from, and I told him that I was from Canada. He said, "You know, I used to be a school teacher here before the earthquake, but now I don't have anyone left to teach. All my pupils are dead. My entire family died. My parents, my wife, my children, my sisters, they are all gone. And I'm left all alone in the world." At first, I was devastated and didn't know how I was going to live. But it is people like you, coming from thousands of miles to help us, who have given me will to live. I have met the Americans and the Russians and the Chinese and the Japanese and the Indonesians and the Turks. The whole world is here. And this has strengthened my faith in humanity. I wish I could hug each and every one of you and tell you that I have decided to live so that you will not be disappointed. And I have come to the realization that in spite of all the wars and bloodshed around us, we are all one, and we can feel the pain of one another as if it is our own pain. Thank you very much.
I'll now ask Kamal Hassan, a fellow director of the Empire Club of Canada, to bring thanks on behalf of the club and of the audience. Kamal?
Mr. Past President, distinguished guests, fellow members, and guests of the Empire Club of Canada, I have the honor to express your formal thanks to Rafi Mustafa, President of the IDRF, the International Development and Relief Foundation. Dr. Mustafa, I believe you're the first Muslim speaker at the Empire Club since Dr. Hadia Shakil spoke to us in 1980 on Islam, myth and reality. Although many myths still exist in Canada about Islam, it is a pleasure to see and hear from a Canadian such as you and a Canadian organization such as the IDRF who are free of those myths. Your success shows that Canadians are willing to truly help the needy, regardless of color, creed, ethnicity, and religion. You've given excellent examples of your work through your talk today, such as your work in Afghanistan, work which is as crucial, as important, and as truly Canadian as all the peacekeeping we are doing there. I noticed that you did similar work in Sudan last decade, in another country around which the guns of war are rumbling today. And I agree that development work such as the IDRF's is much more likely to bring peace and prosperity at a fraction of the cost than any soldiers we could send. Thank you on behalf of all of us for your inspiring words and the example set by your organization, from its founding by Dr. Fuad Sahin, here on my left, up until your work in the present day. Thank you very much.
Dr. Mustafa, every year the Empire Club of Canada Foundation publishes a book of that year's speeches. We would like you to accept a copy of the speeches that were made here in 2005, knowing when the 2006 edition is published, your comments will be recorded as well. And we also have another gift for you, that being Who Said That? A review of the last 100-year speeches and some pithy comments, including some we heard from you today, and when this is next published, your comments will be there as well. Dr. Mustafa, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, on Tuesday, June 6th, we will be hosting the Top 20 Under 20 Canadians, moderated by Aquila Peoples of Youth in Motion. Our guest speaker on Tuesday, June 13th, will be Henning Kagerman, the CEO of SAP Inc. and a member of the Supervisory Board of Deutsche Bank. And our final luncheon speaker of the year will be Leonard Asper, President and CEO of CanWest Global Communications, on Thursday, June 15th. I welcome you to be with us for these stimulating events. In fact, I hope all of you decide to become a member of the Empire Club of Canada. It is one of the most affordable and intellectually treats you can find anywhere. There are membership applications at your tables and at the reception desk outside. A reminder that our luncheon today is being broadcast live on Rogers Television and will be repeated. Our luncheon meetings are also broadcast or rebroadcast across Canada on CPAC, and you can view a webcast of today's luncheon on our website at www.empireclub.org. Now, before closing, my sense is that there are many Canadians here who for many in the audience who chose Canada when they left their native lands. As a Canadian, I simply want to say thank you for choosing this great country and contributing so much to what we stand for, as we heard from Dr. Mustafa. And finally, I want to single out a friend of mine. Her name is Claire Wahogora. She survived the genocide in Rwanda. Claire witnessed the murder of her father, lost a 19-year-old sister and a 22-year-old brother. And when she recovered from the shock, she felt two big hands around her head, and that individual said, "You are safe with me." That individual was a fellow Canadian, General Romeo Dallaire, now Senator Romeo Dallaire. Claire Wahogora, would you mind standing and being acknowledged by the audience, please? Good to see you, Claire. Just a week or so ago, I was able to organize a reunion between Claire and General Dallaire. It was a very emotional event, for sure. And thank you for choosing Canada when you left Rwanda. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes today's luncheon. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you at the next event, hopefully. Good day.
Now, many of you have been coming to this event for several years, but IDRF Gala this year has a special significance because this year IDRF has completed 20 years of its service. It was in September 1984 that 3 concerned Canadians put their signatures on IDRF Charter. They were Dr. Fawad Shaheen, late Muin Muinuddin, and Ibrahim Sayed. And Hamid Sheikh quit his job at McMaster University to join them as the first executive director of IDRF. Now, let me jog your memory and take you back to the mid-1980s when IDRF was born. Those were the years when Ethiopia was plagued by drought and famine. And hundreds of thousands of starving peasants were moving south through the desert, looking for food and burying their dead on the way. Those were also the years when the major crop of Afghanistan was landmines. Landmines that were planted to kill unsuspecting civilians. And landmines that looked like toys intended to kill children. Those landmines produced over 250,000 mutilated amputees who dragged themselves through the streets of Kabul, Peshawar, and Quetta. So that was the atmosphere in which IDRF was born. And IDRF was there, sending grain to the victims of famine and providing prosthetic limbs to the amputees. Over the past 20 years, IDRF has created thousands of supporters like you across Canada and all over the world, and has helped millions of impoverished men, women, and children. But these 20 years have been the years of constant firefighting, moving from crisis to crisis, providing food